Hello, welcome. Can you guys hear me? Thank you, Dan Does Junk, saying, nice, you're becoming quite an OBS expert. Well, I'm working on it. Did you guys like that title? Or the waiting page I made? I'm really working on these things. I am really excited about today's live stream. I have been thinking about it all week, and I have been really trying. Sorry about that. I have been really trying to not open the pattern and peek. This pattern, here, let me see. I have here we go. This is the back of the pattern that we're going to be working on today. Oh no, my hotkeys aren't working. Hold on 1 second. Technical difficulties. I got this. Hold on 1 second. There we go. I chose this dress specifically because it is one pattern piece, but it is an infinite dress. It's called the Infinity Dress. It is a pattern from McCall's from, let's see, what's the date? 1976. So that is the pattern that we are doing today. Here's a close-up of what the pattern piece looks like. And I hope you guys brought all your questions because I want to really dig deep into the patterning. I want to answer as many questions as I can because commercial patterns are a whole nother language. They're super simple and try and be as crystal clear with communicating their messages as much as they can be, but it is very complicated puzzle instructions because you have to first cut out your puzzle pieces before then you attach the puzzle pieces, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But this should be really simple. I really want to deep dive and geek out in the patterning aspect of it. I am going to really talk about the nitty-gritty of all the different pieces, from what information we get from the outside of the packaging to what information we need inside of the packaging. I want to, how do we read the patterns? I may or may not end up getting this thing made today. I know that if I just sat here and did it, I could get this done in no time flat. But I'm going to be talking to you guys and answering your questions as I do this. So if we just get the pattern prepped today, I will be happy. If the dress gets finished, I will be ecstatic. But if not, I'll be here next Tuesday to finish it up. So, whoops. Let's get into this. But first, let's just appreciate my open that I have. So you guys ready? Let's do this. Let's start with the front of the pattern. Let's start with the front of the pattern. This is the back of the pattern. We'll get there. Start with the front of the pattern. This pattern was $2 in the 70s. I doubt it is that price anymore. But I always bought them when they were on sale for $1. I no longer own any patterns. This is the only pattern I have. It shows you different ways you can wear the same dress. And we'll probably reference this picture again. But there's way more information. Is there anything important? Okay. We have for non-cling stretchable knits, important information. It's one size. It's more expensive in Canada and Australia. No, Australia, it's only $2. Let's move on to the back of the pattern. Oops. We'll get into the instructions in just a second. But let's look at the back of the pattern. The information that we need from the back of the pattern is, see that bar on the very top of the pattern that's black? Here, let me go full screen. Don't worry, I'm only live. But actually, okay, this is a crappy camera. Hi. But see right here, this bar right here, that's the part I'm talking about. Okay, so this stupid little bar right here is really important because that's going to help us pick out our fabric. It says 3.5 inches of stretchable knit must stretch from here, this is 3.5 inches from this block, from this end all the way to the end of the pattern piece right here. And if the fabric doesn't pass the stretch test, it's not going to be suitable to use. So that is really important information, and it's the first thing that they noted on the pattern. And it's the crosswise direction of the fabric. When I was looking for different fabrics for this project, I was worried because the fabric I chose for it only was a 2-way stretch, not a 4-way stretch. We've run into this issue before about 2-way stretches and 4-way stretches. 2-way stretches only stretch, and you want to make sure the stretchiness goes around the body, and it does not stretch up and down. Makes a lot of sense for this dress because you really don't want it stretching long ways. It'll stretch out really quickly. But part of me is paranoid and panicked, so I also got a 4-way stretch, and hopefully I'm not going to use it on this project and I'll get to make something else with it. But we need a 2-way stretch that can at least pass the stretch test, or more. Let me go back to... Sorry, there we go. Here we go. Let's go back to this view so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Then it has a pattern number so you can reference and find this exact pattern. So it's one size and it fits hip sizes 32 to 38 inches. I'm going to check and reference that when we have the pattern actually out to see how much ease should be in the hips. All it means is whether it's going to be a fuller skirt or a less full skirt, and kind of I'm curious as if I could stretch the sizing anymore to make it a larger size, which I'm pretty sure is possible. And then underneath the size measurements, it has the dress. There's only one dress, and how much fabric we're going to need. We're going to need 3 5/8 yards. I did not have 3 5/8 yards of any fabric, so I went to my mother's stash and I got some really cool fabric. I want to show you guys. Let me go back to this one. All right, it's right here. So this fabric is from the 70s. It is a polyester that does not breathe. Here, let me do my over-the-top camera. Oh no, is it not working? Okay, well, my over-the-top camera that I made sure I had set up and ready to go before I started went to sleep on me. So, anyways, the fabric, this is the fabric I have chosen. You can tell by the selvage that this is the up and down direction. It really doesn't have very much up and down stretch, but the cross grain, it has a lot of stretch. Now, I tested the stretch on the end of the fabric and it was starting to fray when I did that. So on the edges. So when I'm going to test the stretch of the fabric, it's better if I take the fabric and fold it over so I'm not stretching out the edge, because the edge usually stretches more than the rest of the fabric anyways. I'm going to hold my fabric up to the stretch test so it's the same length as the black line. And then I'm just going to pull it, and it barely passes the stretch test, but it does. So we're going to give it a try, because look, This 70s dress needs this 70s fabric. And to help us keep kind of reference as to what we're making in this weird pattern piece shaped dress, I have another 70s dress. Right here, it is a full length dress with a deep V. Look at the fabrics are so similar. I love it. And it's about the same size, so. When we're comparing the pattern size to what we need the finished dress to be, it'll give you a good visual as to how long the pattern piece actually is. Because I have a feeling that I may end up shortening this dress because I'm not very tall. I may not even have to due to the design of it, but we'll take a look and we'll answer those questions as we get there. Let me just kick everything. So I have fabric. It's questionable. It's like a C+ on the fabric scale, but we'll find out how well it works once it's in the fabric itself. So the suggested fabrics for best results use a lightweight, non-cling, stretchable jersey type knit. So far that counts as all of those types of fabrics, such as Blue Ridge Wrinkle D-Lane of 100% Kenya. Now there is a Q word that doesn't have a U for Scrabble. I wonder if it's an actual word or just a brand. Because it's capitalized, I'm assuming it's a brand. But Q-I-A-N-A, Kenya. I can butcher any name. Rosewood Fabric LA's Grand Q of 100% Kenya. Burlington's Ambrosia of 100% Dacron polyester. Dacron, isn't that the brand name for polyfiber fill? Interesting. And Milken's Sure Thing of 100% Dacron polyester. So those are all futuristic brands of fabric that have ceased to exist into the future. That's crazy. I love it. And I have no idea what any of those fabrics are, but I would assume they were that kind of plasticky fabric that I just chose. So I'm hoping. Here's hoping. Whoops. It says to use polyester thread. And one size can be worn in an infinite numbers of ways. See enclosed guide sheet, illustrations 13 ways to dress can be worn, or create your own personal version. I like that. And then it has a picture of all the pattern pieces that would be in a pattern. Has the copyright, sold for individual home use only, not for use for commercial or manufacturing purposes. And then it has all the trademark information. So the important information we need is what kind of fabric we need and the sizing that we need. So when you are buying when you are buying patterns, the main things that you need when you are picking out your pattern is it going to fit you? And then how much fabric do I really need? And what kind of pattern pieces are they going to kind of generally look at so you can make these choices accordingly. Hi, Austin Lips. Welcome. Is that from the 70s? Looks from the 70s. Yes. This pattern's from the 70s. My dress is from the 70s. And that fabric's from the 70s. If I use vintage thread and a vintage pattern and vintage fabric, does that make it a vintage dress? Or is it a modern dress made out of vintage fabrics? It's a modern dress made out of vintage, but I love it. It's kind of one of those questions that you really don't need to ask yourself, but I do anyways. So now we have packets that come with the pattern, and we have the pattern itself. Let's go packets for the pattern, and then we'll go for the pattern. So this is all the different ways to get into make the dress. We get to play with this once the dress is made. So we'll just put that to the side for now. Let me pull up the slideshow. Ta-da! And we will go to how to use McCall's Carefree pattern. Study the pattern. Honestly, every time I start a new project, I geek out over the pattern. I read it through at least once before I get started, because if I don't read through it once, I'm gonna like get to a point, go, oh, I can do this, and then move forward and go, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. And so it's much better if I read through the pattern. And also I get a dream about the project before actually committing to starting the project or cutting the fabrics. So make sure you know which pattern pieces you have, understand the pattern markings. I'm going to kind of go through the pattern markings when they're actually on the pattern itself. So we'll talk about what the pattern markings are, and then adjust if necessary. The patterns have places where you can adjust, and we'll talk about adjustments you can make and why you would want to make adjustments. Yeah. They have McCall's easy rule for shortening and lengthening. We'll go into that a little bit and why they did it, where they did it. Notes for the measurements. This one actually has centimeters and millimeters for the pattern versus the 5/8 seam allowance that I'm so accustomed to for patterns these days. So I think this was made when we were thinking that we were actually going to move into the centimeters and millimeters versus sticking in inches and feet. But yeah, this one has 1 centimeter seam allowances, which I really like. That's a seam allowance that I like working with. I hate working with 5/8 inch seam allowance. It's just too bulky. I always trim them down. I don't even like cutting them out with that seam allowance. And that's one of the reasons I stopped using commercial patterns, is just having to do my math and adjust the patterns to take off the seam allowance. You know, fun problems to geek out on. But this one does have 1 inch seam allowance for the entire pattern. 1 centimeter seam allowance for the entire pattern. And then it kind of tells you what to expect for laying out your fabric. Make sure you shrink your fabric. You pre-shrink it so that when you cut your fabric out and you do your when you wash it for the first time, it's going to not shrink on you and it will still fit. I like to not pre-wash my fabric because it's a whole nother step that I have to do before I use it. But I'm using vintage fabric that's been pre-washed several times, so I'm not even having to stress out about that. Let's go back to the full webcam. Okay. The next little bit, I think we need to have the pattern pieces out, and it'll make more sense. So let's start pulling out this pattern. This pattern looks like it just was shoved in the bag, just folded up willy-nilly. And in a way, it kind of feels like it is, but there's a method to the madness of the way it's folded. So I will show you at some point today how to fold a pattern to fit it back into the bag, because if you don't fold it right, it will be a pain in the butt to get it back into the envelope. Just speaking from experience. Let me shove everything to the side. Oh, I am so sad. I set up this camera above me so you guys could see the pattern pieces. You know what? Let me see if I can fix it. Don't worry, I'm only live. Okay. Let me put this back up. All right, let's see if that worked. You guys ready to see with me? It worked. Okay, you guys can see my method of my madness. Let me see. Look it. I got 2 cameras. I'm figuring this out slowly. Don't worry, we're only live. But let me push this out of my way. Okay, that doesn't plug in anything I needed. And let's start pulling this pattern out. So even without my computer blocking off this last end of the table, this pattern piece is way too big to fit on the table. And one thing I panicked when I first saw is that there's 2 pattern pieces. Why is there 2 pattern pieces? It's supposed to be only one pattern piece. But that's because it is just a huge pattern piece that needs to get spliced together in order to fit without being wasteful on paper. And we're going to be able to get that out of 3 and something. How much fabric do I need? Because I hope I have enough. If not, I have the 4-way stretch and it has more fabric. I need 3 5/8 yards, so almost 4 yards of fabric for this one dress. Now, part of me wants to just cut out the pattern itself from the paper and tape it together, because that's honestly what I do. Like, when I buy a commercial pattern, I usually buy it as a disposable pattern, because let's be honest, unless I really, really like the way it turns out, I'm not going to make it again. And if I do like the way it turns out, then I would have already adjusted the fit for me, and probably, like, if you are like a one pattern size at the top and a different pattern size on the bottom, I just blended and cut out the pattern size from the bottom measurement to the top measurement and make all my adjustments. Now, saving your pattern pieces, like, it's great for kids stuff because you can use them again and again as they grow. But I'm kind of done growing, and I don't really like the challenge of trying to cut out fabric without cutting your pattern. It's a stress that I've done, and I'm just over it. So I normally just cut out the fabric. But this is a great vintage pattern, and it's so simple that I was actually thinking about tracing it onto a separate, not piece of paper, because I was going to use plastic, because that's what I have, and then I'm going to trace it on there. But before I start transferring markings, there's one really important step that I really need to do, and it's not a step that people often think about doing. Here, we don't need to be in that huge view. It's pressing my pattern. See all these folds and all these wrinkles? It's just a little smooshed over here and a little smooshed over there, but it adds up as you go around, and your pattern pieces can become very wonky and a form or shape as to what they really need to be. So an important step when you're prepping your pattern, some people do it after they cut out their pattern pieces. I like to do it sometimes before, sometimes after. It depends on if it's a lot of teeny tiny pieces and I only need a few of them. Or if it's like a big pattern, then I might just pattern it out and then cut it. So focusing on the areas that I know I'm going to be cutting, and then being forgiving on the areas that I know is just seam allowance. Don't worry, I'm only live. Of course, this thing decided to pop out of its place. Okay. We're in business. I don't want to put a glass iron on a glass table. Did you guys know that you can iron paper? Just turn off the steam and you can press all the wrinkles out of your paper. You're welcome. Important information to know. I can do this. And let it get hot. Okay. This should go really quickly. I'm trying to get the lines straight so that they're no longer crossing over each other. Austin Lip says, it's cool that even if it's from the 70s and then someone like you, Felicia, from the modern day, old stuff works for modern day people like 2024. Yep. Fashion repeats itself. Same as history. We might have to wait a while for it to be back in fashion, but if you like something, you like something. Trippy. I am so spoiled that I'm used to having a wireless iron that I'm like, why? Because the side that your iron cord is on, whether you're lefty or righty, it makes a difference. And I switch between both, so it means the cord's always on the wrong side. Oops. And I'm trying not to wrinkle this. This really wrinkled area right here. I'm right at the halfway point, so I want to show you the difference of the non-iron side. And the iron side. There's still the little bit of the creases. They're never going to completely be gone because that's how you're going to fit it back in the bag. But it's not going to mess with your sizing anymore. Oh, good. It has the natural waistline marked. I was wondering about that. Okay. Once I get this all pressed, we'll cut out the two separate pieces. so you guys can see better what I am doing. I'm not worried about these wrinkles over here because they're not on my pattern pieces. So if you're like, oh, you missed a spot, it's because it doesn't matter right now. Just trying to get as flat as I can. As I wrinkle it. Shh. Out of the way, and let's start talking about some of these pattern markings. All right, I am going to go to all right, the crappy computer camera, and we're going to look at all these different lines. This line right here is the just border line that says this is the group of pattern pieces that I'm working with. It's not important to us. It is not the line we're cutting on. This line right here is the edge of our seam allowance. This dotted line right here is our stitching line. And there's a lot of lines all really close to each other. And there can be more lines if it is a graded pattern, meaning it comes in a whole lot of different sizes. This only comes in one size. So this thicker line right here and this line right here are the lines that we're going to cut. And this line here is just the border for printing purposes. I hope that helps clear things up. Okay. That's my best attempt at a close-up camera. Oh, Ianalith's here. Welcome, Ianalith. What am I making today? I am making an infinity dress that has only one pattern piece, and we're going to figure it out. Dan Does Junk, how are the animals? They are doing great. Toby, Bruno, and Spooky are hanging out being warm, and I now have another member of my family. I have a rescue cat named Jack, and he's a scaredy cat, and he may never make it onto camera just because he is just a shy boy. So we are doing well. Okay, so I'm not using my fabric scissors to cut out my pattern because that'll dull your fabric scissors, and I like my fabric scissors for fabric to stay sharp. And honestly, if you do not have fabric scissors and you are using a crappy pair of scissors, I highly suggest going to the dollar store and getting a fresh pair of scissors, the nicest ones that they have in the big 7-inch. These ones I got from the dollar store, and using those over using a dull pair of scissors that have cut cardboard before. Because I've done that many a times. But I'm going to use my paper scissors, and we're just going to cut out these pattern pieces, and we're going to follow the cutting line and not the printing line. And it's okay to double check that you're cutting the correct line. I do like the sound it makes when it's cutting. Okay. It's a really good idea to have I usually have a paper bag. I'm realizing that I completely forgot it now that I went to go reach for it and it's not where it belongs, to catch all your scraps as you're cutting out your pattern, because scraps and pattern pieces can easily get confused for each other. So don't decide to sort through them in the end. It will often, I just wrinkle it up so I know that it's not a pattern piece and it's just a scrap. That's usually a bigger deal when if I was working with small pattern pieces. This is a huge pattern piece, so there's no way I'm going to get it confused, but just out of a habit, I tend to do that. Nice straight lines. Yeah, it's super pretty. Can't wait to see what color the dress will be. The dress is going to be this color. It's just so you know. Hopefully I have enough, otherwise this is my backup fabric here. And I think that fabric is going to end up being something else, hopefully. But I know there's enough of it. Alright. Not wrinkle this pattern up. And let me do it this way so you guys can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I'm going for the bent handles shears because they don't have to lift up the fabric so much to get the paper so much to cut it in the straight line. But these are my paper scissors too. this pattern piece right here says it's important to join the sections of the tissue, but I don't need this because I'm just going to attach the two sections of the tissue and I'm not going to be this crazy about cutting out the fabric. It will be a lot more neater than this, but as long as I'm on the line. All right, let me go to, okay. All right, this is my pattern piece. Right here, it marks where it says these words right here. It says natural waistline, so that should go right here on me. You know, after it gets hemmed, it should be the right length. This would go wrap around. It says the finished length of this is 43 inches, and I typically prefer my maxi dresses at 40 inches. And I thought I was going to shorten this, but I don't think I'm going to. I might just hem it. So let me show you something. Okay, let me go to... Right here is where you adjust the pattern length. So you can shorten it by folding it up or lengthening it by cutting it here and adding the length and truing up the sides. Truing up meaning making the lines match up again. They do it in this area versus on the hem for one main reason. Can you guys guess what that reason is? I'll give you a second. Why would we change the length here instead of the hemline? All right, while we're thinking about that, I'm going to finish cutting out the rest of this pattern. Oh yeah, I like these scissors better. Such a scissor snob, but the right tool for the job makes it so much easier. I want to go fast, but I know better. All right, I got one side down. I have one more side. Has anybody figured it out? No, if you don't know. If I shorten it 2 inches here, it goes like this. If I shorten it 2 inches here, it shortens here. Think about it. I'm going to cut the other side and then I'll tell you the answer. Come on, you guys. I believe in you. All right, I cut out both sides. I can tell you the answer now. The reason we would shorten a skirt here, where it tells us, versus here at the hemline, is because it'll affect the fullness of the skirt. We want to keep the skirt as full as we can so it's as swooshy as the pattern piece. If we cut it down here, we are essentially narrowing the skirt's width so it's not as swooshy. That's the same reason that they have markings on your patterns, like at the bodice area or on the waist or the hips or the hemline. They say adjust your measurements here. It's because it's not going to affect the fullness, the hem fullness that they want to achieve. So that is why they give you a different place to shorten or lengthen it from. When I'm placing dresses on the fabric, often I go to the selvage from whatever the waist to hem is to make it as wide as I possibly can if I want a nice full skirt. But you shorten it here, you're not changing your fullness of your skirt. You're only just shortening it. So that is the reason that you do it at where they tell you to versus just hemming it a little bit shorter. Important notes on a pattern piece. So this big section right here is for shortening and lengthening it. Right here, this says center. Place this line on fold. So it's from right here, right below what the natural waist is, all the way to the hem. That part's going to be on the fold. This needs to be attached now to the pattern itself. Right sides up, and join section, join section. Join here to section 1, join here to section 2. They line up perfectly. I thought they would have overlapped. Let me double check the pattern instructions if it says anything about that. Nope, just join them together before cutting. So I'm going to grab a piece of tape right here. I'm just going to use a little bit of this tape so I don't have to permanently stick them together, but they'll hold. There, line to line. let's see how long this is. Okay. If this pattern piece is the dress, this is the waist, this can go any direction, and I have this much of a tail to play with. When honestly, it feels about right. So, okay, let me go to my overhead camera. Okay. Right here is the waistline. Right here's the hem of the dress. Right here is all the extra fabric for wrapping and tying. Here is the finished dress with the finished hemline. The waistline matched to the waistline. It has a thicker hem. But yeah, I normally have a waist to hem on a dress that I want to be barefoot in. I would do about 40. And the finished length of this one is supposed to be 43. So I might be beneficial to shorten my pattern here. And the way I do that, flip this over, whoops. Flip this over, fold on this line, up to this line. And that's going to shorten it 2 inches for me, which I think should be a-okay. There. And right there. Okay. Now normally I would totally be fine cutting this out on the floor, but I don't have that set up for a shot to do live with you guys, so I will probably pin this really well and just cut it out section by section. Let's see if I have enough fabric. Knock on wood, cross your fingers. I thought I did, but now that I see this piece in all its glory, I think I might not. We'll see. Let's see. Because having a glass of soda on the table is not a great thing to do when you're cutting. All right, I'll put that over there. Now this pattern said to place it on the fold, so I am going to lay out my fabric on the fold. Let me put this to the side. And this is a hot dog fold, not a hamburger fold. So salvage edges together. Stretch going around the body. got you, Spooky. You have to come say hi. Spooky was meowing at the door, and he wasn't stopping, so now he's here. Okay. Let me go. My 2-camera setup. Here we go. The selvage edge is towards me. This side's the fold, this side's the selvage edge, and okay. Gave myself a little space. Let's see. Hi, Spooky. Got some pins here. Yes, Spooky? Okay. Oops. Pin and fold. It's okay, we can make this tiny table work. Never let fabric hang off the edge of the table, then it gets all wonky and warped. Do you like this fabric, Spooky? You do? Let me move this over here so you guys can see better. My lovely fabric weight right here. Okay. All right. Flat. Okay, hope I have enough. If not, we're going for a blue floral, but I am loving this pansy print. might just have enough. Let me double check. I'll have enough. I'm just barely quite not enough fabric. Oh, see that? My question is, do I bother tacking this much on? You know what? I'll just round off the edges. Yes, I knew it was going to be close. I really did. And had I not shortened it those 2 inches, it probably would have been a bigger deal, but I don't think this is going to be that big of a deal. All right, let's go to webcam. All right, let's see what's going on before I start. Oh, we're at the computer camera. Let's go back to webcam. We have Duran Calvin in. I can butcher anyone's name. Welcome. There's the Ryobi tool. Had to show at least one on the stream. Oh yeah, my heat gun. I was just using that. And spooky people are saying hi. Okay. That was loud, LOL. I'm sorry if I banged the microphone, but okay. I think I've accepted that it's going to be ever so slightly short at the tip. I think it's going to be still worth it to do it out of this fun print versus, I like that fabric. I really do. And there's more of it. And I know it would 100% fit, but I really like this 70s print. Yeah, I'm going to do it this way. Okay. Acceptance. The thing is you know your issues that you're going to have starting at this phase. So any issue that you have at the cutting phase is going to be exasperated by the time you get to the finishing phase. So I know that it's going to be ever so slightly shorter at the tips, but this is one of those one size fits all. I feel like there's a little wiggle room for that I'm going to be A-okay. And if not, I'll cut it out of another fabric. No skin off my back. I'll turn it into a skirt or something, but we'll have some fun. Okay, mentally I've accepted it. I think it's just time to cut it out of the fabric. Let's just bite the bullet and do it. Cutting the fabric's always the worst part for me because it's the commitment. Now you're committed to the project. Oops, sorry about that. They can hear your purse, spooky. You know that? All right. Let me pick out the right scissors for the project. Before I start to try and cut the real fabric, let me just cut a swatch. Oh, those ones cut nice. Ooh, but I'm going to use these ones. Okay. What's the difference? These are my dressmaker shears. They're spring-loaded, so they automatically bounce up. It's supposed to make it easier to cut things out, but then you're just working out different muscles versus adductors versus abductors. So it hurts your hands in different ways, but it's still fun, and it looks like the flintlock for these scissors. So I like these ones. These ones are my heavy-duty leather denim 7 layers of fabric cutting out. If these fat scissors don't cut it, these ones will, but they're heavy, and these ones are serrated, so they kind of through it a little bit easier. All right, let's cut the fabric. Let's do it. Let me just get this done. Sorry, I keep bumping the mic, but I'm glad I at least have a mic, so better each time. All right, let me do the 2 camera setup. I'm just doing this in sections. I'm taking my time and trying to do it well. I think I hear Toby. Hi, Toby. now we're on the fold part of it, so I only have to cut one side. There were no darts on this pattern piece, but there are a couple fabric markings. So I am going to mark these 2 dots, which are the only seam in this pattern. So that okay. Let's take a second and talk patterns. So patterns give you a lot of information, but only so much information can be transferred to the person sewing. This blank pattern is probably like the piece. It has no markings on it. It has no notches. It has no darts or any information. This one at least has a reference line of where the center is, where the bicep, etc. goes. So patterns really need to convey a lot of information with very little markings, because you're not writing words. Transferring actual markings can be difficult. You can pin based, you can mark with thread, you can mark with pins, you can mark with tailor's tacks, which is thread also. And darts, the ends need to be matched where things need to match up, and you have to think about what the person sewing is going to see. This has a dart. How do I tell somebody that this is where the dart ends? You put a dot there, and you put notches at the end of the dart, and you sew this to just above where that notch is, or the dot is. You sew it about 1/2 inch above where the dot is, the mark is. You'll see that in actual manufactured garments. When you rip them apart, you can see the notches and holes. This pattern, again, simple dress pattern, only has 2 dots right here, and that's the only seam that's sewn. Oh, right here and here. You guys can't see it. I just looked over at the camera. But okay. If that's really the only markings I need, I can take the pattern off, actually. I'm going to do that. Okay. I'm going to pin it, take all these pins out. Austin Lip says, I hear bang grinding sounds like table legs. That is Toby. Here, let me go to this camera, and we could say hi to Toby. He's where he's always at when I'm crafting, at my feet. Like such a good boy he is. Yep. So that's the weird noises. Huh. Anyways, let me take out all these pins and take off this pattern piece because I have the 2 pins I need in the fabric itself. And I'm carefully taking off the tape that I put on here because I don't need it anymore. And it was only temporary. I'm going to separate these pieces because they're just so ginormous. I just don't want to think about it. Oops, I took out my pin. It's okay. I'll just put it back in. Line that back up. Line that back up. Put it back to flat. That lines up here. Dot is here. So this is usually where you kind of try it on before you commit to sewing because you can make any adjustments now before it gets crazy. So I'm just going to slip this to one side. Okay. So this is where the quote unquote waist is. Ah. Then this. Sews to here. really scientific. And then this and this can be tied however I see fit. As far as the hem length goes, I'm glad I shortened it. I think it's going to work out just fine. Okay, let's put the right sides together on this fabric. Oh, spooky. You scared me. I was not expecting that shadow to move. Okay. All right, I am putting the right sides of the fabric together, you know. Oh, you ready to go out, Toby? All right, hold on one second. Okay, so this is the one seam we need to sew. Let me pull out. Oh, let's do this one. Why not? Okay. Turn on my sewing machine. I am threaded. Do I have black thread in my bobbin? Yes, I do. Okay. Just wanted to check. I am going to do... I was just going to do a straight stitch. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a straight stitch. I was going to be fancy, but I don't think I need to be. This fabric doesn't super unravel. It's nothing crazy. Pull out the pins. Back stitch. You take 3 little stitches forward, 3 little stitches backwards, and then you go forwards again to lock your stitches in place so they don't come undone. And then let me increase the stitch length a little bit. Oh no, what happened here? There is hot pink thread in my sewing machine. Hot pink thread. I'm not using hot pink thread. Don't worry, I'm live. This one seam that should have gone really fast is of course going to get stuck in my sewing machine. What? Why? let me switch back to the webcam. All right, so I let somebody borrow my sewing machine. It came with me to a con, and there's some hot pink thread stuck in. You want to see what I just pulled out of it? Here. Let me show you. A little thread and fiber wad. I would be fighting that the whole time if I tried to sew with this in my sewing machine. It would not have worked. I have fixed enough sewing machines to know the better. Then it's easier if I just stop now, fix it, and then we move on. So I put that back in its place. Don't worry, I'm only live. How are you guys doing? They probably did that dress by hand in the 70s. No, they did not. They have had home sewing machines since the turn of the century. Click, click. This goes in here. No, that one's this side. And this goes here. Well, this is the truth about sewing. Sometimes I find that I'm tinkering with my sewing machine longer than it actually takes me to stitch the seam that I need sewn. All right, let's try this again. Thread that in. That goes on. I dropped my presser foot. Here we go. Round 2. And before I go back onto my real fabric, I'm going to do a test swatch of fabric. Use a little piece. Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, no need to lose your cool. Just keep your machine clean. All right. Round 2. Let's try this again. Let's see if we do it this way. Where's my seams I was sewing? This is one. And I pulled it out of the machine here. Okay. Try again. Sorry about that. Okay, let me put the sewing machine to the side for just a second. I want to see how it looks. And like that, I have a dress. And I think that's going to work out very nicely. Okay. So, I just need to finish the edges. This dress, technically, because it's a polyester knit, the edges are not going to like unweave on me or be crazy, but a finished edge is a finished edge and looks so much nicer finished that I am just going to take my time and stitch all the way around. Let me trim my threads. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start at the seam allowance. And I'm going to fold, and I'm going to fold. Once I get it started, it'll be easy to keep it going. There we go. I need too many different cameras for this, because I want to show you guys the okay, 2 cameras. And let me move this guy over to here so you can see better what's going on there. Okay. Austin Lips says they had old-fashioned sewing machines that was not automatic, but technology is good in 24. I definitely like a computerized sewing machine. I am not going to lie. I love that I can just turn it off and on again and it'll go back to 1. Oh, thank you. That dress looks good on you. From the 70s. Thank you. I will probably play with it in a little bit. Austin Lip says they don't make them like they used to. Sewing machines, honestly, vintage sewing machines struggle with modern fabrics. Sometimes if you're just really struggling, it's not you, it's a sewing machine. Leather, cotton, those fabrics are always going to sew easy on an old sewing machine, but modern fabrics, polyesters, knits, synthetics, metallics, those crazy fabrics that I love to work with, they do not like the vintage sewing machines. Needs to be 80s or newer. This fabric lays really flat on its own, so I'm not worried about pressing this before I start stitching it. Normally I would iron this first and then sew it because it would make my life so easy. But this fabric lays down so nicely that I don't have to stress out about that. So I'm just folding it under and folding it under, so I have just a rolled hem, and I'm going to go all the way around the edge, including the hem. They make sewing machines feet that is a rolled hem foot that would do this super fast, but it's okay. I'm just going to take my time and go slow and get it done. As I sped up the sewing machine. Just keep stitching, just keep stitching. That's what goes on in my head. Like Dory from Finding Nemo. Okay, let's see. I don't think that the tips being cut short has any effect on the fit at all for me. So I am not worried about it. I'm getting towards the end. I'm going to curve the edge of this because I'm just doing a round edge instead of a sharp edge. not entertained watching me suffer? No, it's okay. I'm going to cheat for just a second, get off my trajectory, and then pre-stitch where I want it to follow the curve. Pre-stitch, what do you mean? I'm just going to... Okay, I gave myself a guideline so I could fold and follow my stitch line, and it'll go over that curve a little easier without getting wonky. Why did I do this to myself? I could just like not done a curve. A point is easier. It's okay, I'm making these decisions live. That doesn't mean they're the right decisions. They're just a decision. Ooh-wee. Ooh, the struggle. It's okay, I got this. I got this. Whew, got through the hard part. Starting to sweat there. Getting really nervous. Oh, these are really long edges. Okay. Thank you, Yanalith. Made it through that hard spot. If I used my serger, I'd just do a rolled hem around the whole edge. And it would be done. No, it would still take time. Okay, I feel like this is getting long and redundant, and I'm very pleased with the way this dress turned out. So I think I am going to end this stream soon. Let me just finish this one seam all the way. How much do I have left? The whole thing. Anyways, I'm just gonna get this to a good stopping point, and then I will call it a night. Love this fabric. It is so nice and easy to work with. Sometimes these knits can be a pain in the butt to work with, but that's usually because you don't have the right needle in. I just have a universal needle and it is fine. I was worried that it was going to need a ballpoint needle, which I do have. I just didn't want to bother changing it yet because this needle's a fresh one. Oh, thank you, Iana says, no problem. I'm always here for you. Appreciate that. Austin Lip says, so the person who invented the microwave was around... Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that Tom Scott video. Okay, let's see. I'm honestly going to sit and do this anyways, whether I'm live or not. And apparently I like torturing myself while I craft, so you guys get to witness. Oh, I don't like that spot right there. Oh, didn't catch. Okay, I can fix that. Okay. Let me go let Toby in. Hey, Toby. You gonna come join me? Okay. A lot of times I make Toby a toy out of the scraps of fabric, but only after I'm done and if he's been a good boy. So he's trying to be near me so he can get his toy. But I don't think I'm going to make a toy out of the scraps of this fabric. Doing the underarm curve. Can you hear me now? No sound? Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me in the setup? No sound still? How about now? Hello? Hello? No sound? Okay. Let me know when you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me. All right, we're good. Okay, you can hear me? Good, thank you. I must have knocked the mic when I grabbed it. Oh, good. Everybody can hear me? Phew. Can you hear Toby chewing on his toenails? Now you can see him chewing on his toenails. Wee. Toby cam. I think this is probably the safest place to put my other shot. There we go. Okay. Austin Lips says, when are you going to be working with Odin again? Just wondering. Sunday. I saw him this weekend. We went to a small con up in Citrus Heights called the Weekend Blender. That's what I got my catcher costume ready for last week. And next Sunday, we're going to go live. And hopefully make some more progress on our proton packs. All right, around the bend we go. Wish me luck. I'm not doing the pre-stitching this time. I'm just gonna go for it. be pretty. I know why they call this the infinity dress, because it takes that long to make. Infinity. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. Oh, jeez, I am so over this. It's not even that much. Almost there. I almost made it all the way around. What's nice is people in the future can just fast forward and see it all finished. Makes me think of the montage machine from Smosh. Push the button and in a montage everything gets completed. About a yard left. Oh, it's 11:41 there in Ohio. Well, hopefully I'll get this done before midnight. Okay. This is the dress that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Okay, we have a hemmed bodice. Let me put this out of the way. it has a finished edge. And here is my 70s dress that I own that fits me for comparison. And then this is the infinity dress that I just made. Let me go to the 2-camera setup, see if that helps. They can be about the same length. And the V can be adjusted. It can be a scoop back. I am definitely going to be playing with this dress. The strings are so long. Is it necessary? Probably. The more I play with it, the more it'll probably make sense. Let's see. I'm going to do it so it's only on one side. So it's asymmetrical. Tie it on one side, and then the waist. What's going on with the back? Well, that looks weird. I'm definitely going to have to play with this, see how it lays nicely. I have plain the hips. I don't really need the stretch. There's room and wiggle room. Let's do it this way. Tie it as a... I have no hair ties within reach. This is crazy. My workstation doesn't have a place for me to... doesn't have something for me to put my hair up. Oh well. All right, let's see. This and then twist it. So let's do the twist all the way down. Bring it forward. Oh, I want to see this side, not this side. I really like the way this dress turned out. I'm going to have to play with it, and probably will share some photos of it on Instagram. And perhaps next week we might do a dirty laundry fashion show and play with all the different ways to do this awesome dress. I am so loving this fabric. It is comfortable. It is nice. I like the print. It's bright and it's vibrant. So, let's see. Thanks, Ionalith. She says that's super pretty. Yay, happiness. So, I have a new dress. It only took me 3 hours on this live stream to make it happen. Oh, wait, no. It says I've only been recording for 2 hours. That's about how long my live streams usually are. So, I made a whole dress on this live stream. Yay! That's the second time I've done that. Please, if you have any questions about patterns, put them in the comments of this video. I will read them, I will look at them, and I will hopefully address them in the future. I have not used a commercial pattern in years. This is the first time I've done it in a very long time. It wasn't as crazy as I remember, but I also, when I sew, I'm making things pretty darn custom, and I really enjoy pattern drafting. So I have been making my own patterns for, over 10 years now. I have not owned a pattern in over 10 years. So this one I happily own. I totally like it, and part of me wants to see if I can do this out of like a white stretch lace and make like a wedding dress. I've made wedding dresses before. I've made hundreds of wedding dresses. I think this one could be a fun one, but I definitely love it out of this fabric. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope I answered some of your questions, if not left you with more. Yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.